afternoon. You're watching the English newscast on Future Television. I'm Yumna Naufal. These are today's headlines. Parliament Speaker Nabih Berri says the election of a new president is a necessity, but will not be sufficient to solve the country's problems. Moscow says Russian and Syrian planes have not conducted any airstrikes on Aleppo for the last 7 days, despite a 3-day truce ending at the weekend. And Iraqi security forces regain full control of a western town captured by ISIS. Parliament Speaker Nabih Berri says the election of a new Lebanese president is a necessity, but will not be enough to solve the country's many issues, which include the passage of a new electoral law and the Syrian refugee crisis. Berri, who made the remarks during a dinner banquet hosted by Lebanon's UN ambassador in Geneva, Najla Sakir, said that he hoped that a new head of state would be elected on October 31st. Describing efforts to overcome the challenges following the election of a new president as the greater jihad, Berri called on politicians to try to end sectarianism in the country. He also renewed calls for an agreement on a new law and fair electoral process to replace the current 1960 majoritarian system contested by many Lebanese groups. Berri also voiced concern about the growing number of refugees in Lebanon, which he said posed a danger to the country's economic, educational, as well as social sectors. Moscow says that Russian and Syrian planes have not conducted any airstrikes on Aleppo for the last 7 days, despite a 3-day truce ending at the weekend. Over the last 7 days, all flights by Russian and Syrian air forces have been completely halted. The planes are not going near the city and not carrying out strikes, military spokesman Igor Konashenkov said in a statement. After the humanitarian pause ran out, airstrikes hit the opposition-controlled district of Sheikh Said, the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights reported. Russia's defense spokesman said that 6 passages for civilians to leave rebel-held East Aleppo are still functioning and that 48 women and children left late on Monday. Russia ruled out early moves to renew its ceasefire in Aleppo after the brief halt ended, admitting that few had used humanitarian passages to leave the city and blaming failures by the U.S.-led coalition. Iraqi security forces regained full control of a western town that was attacked by Daesh 2 days earlier, seeking to draw attention away from an offensive to retake the city of Mosul. ISIS struck the town of Rudba in the country's west and Kirkuk in the north in recent days. A journalist who visited the town confirmed that it was fully back in government hands, as did the local official responsible for the area. The extremists attacked Rudba on Sunday, briefly seizing the mayor's office before being pinned back by the security forces and still maintaining control of 2 neighborhoods. The extremists executed 5 Iraqis, including members of the security forces in the town. On Friday, dozens of extremist fighters launched a spectacular attack on the Kurdish-controlled city of Kirkuk, killing at least 46, mostly members of the security forces. Coming up next, U.S. elections and more headlines when we return. Welcome back. You're watching the Future News in English here on television. Mobile phone footage provided by police shows the destruction inside one of the barracks of a police training academy in Pakistan's city of Quetta after a deadly attack. At least 59 people were killed and more than 100 wounded late when gunmen wearing suicide vests stormed the academy in the southwestern city of Quetta and took hostages. More than 200 police trainees were stationed at the facility when the attack occurred. Some cadets were taken hostages during the attack, which lasted 5 hours. Most of the dead were police cadets. Officials said the attackers targeted the center's hostel, where around 200 to 250 police recruits are resting. Militant group Daesh has claimed responsibility for the assault, the deadliest in Pakistan since a suicide bomber killed 70 people in an attack on mourners gathered in the hospital in Quetta back in August. And on to Turkey, where at least 10 people were hurt in a blast at a car park in an office building in the southern Turkish city of Antalya. City Mayor Menderes Turel said 10 to 12 people were slightly injured by flying glass in the explosion at the Antalya Chamber of Commerce and Industry building. Over the past year, Turkey has suffered a series of attacks blamed on Daesh, as well as Kurdish militants. TV images showed a wrecked, burned-out car and smashed glass nearby. At least 4 cars were damaged. The incident occurred 11 days after 3 rockets hit a roadside fishmonger in the popular tourist region, but without causing casualties. German police say they have searched apartments in 5 regions as part of an investigation into alleged involvement in extremism by Chechen asylum seekers. Police in the eastern region of Thuringia said that they searched 13 dwellings in 5 regions as part of an investigation into a 28-year-old Russian citizen of Chechen background suspected of intending to join the fighting in Syria on behalf of ISIS. The investigation later developed into a probe of 13 further individuals suspected of financing extremist activity. Police said all were people of Chechen ethnicity with Russian citizenship seeking asylum in Germany and whose status has not yet been decided. Police also said there was no concrete danger of an imminent attack, but did not say whether anyone was arrested. Democratic presidential candidate Hillary Clinton and Senator Elizabeth Warren took aim at Donald Trump and looked to shore up support for Democratic congressional hopefuls during a stop in New Hampshire. Take a look.
And Donald Trump aggressively disrespects more than half the human beings in this country. He thinks that because he has money, that he can call women fat pigs and bimbos. He thinks because he is a celebrity that he can rate women's bodies from 1 to 10. He thinks that because he has a mouthful of Tic Tacs that he can force himself on any woman within groping distance. Well, I got news for you, Donald Trump. Women have had it with guys like you.
I kind of expect if Donald heard what she just said, he's tweeting away. She gets under his thin skin like nobody else. Whether she's calling him out about his mysterious tax returns, she exposes him for what he is, temperamentally unfit and totally unqualified to be president of the United States. Families. What I love about Maggie is that she's independent. She knows how to find common ground and how to stand her ground. And that is exactly the kind of leader we need in the United States Senate. Because we've got to break through the gridlock and the dysfunction that has unfortunately marred Washington. We've got to get back to listening respectfully. We can disagree without being disagreeable. And that's why we need leaders like Maggie. He's basically declaring defeat before the battle has even started. He's proving to the world what it means to have an unqualified commander-in-chief. It's not only wrong, it's dangerous, and it needs to be repudiated on November the 8th here in New Hampshire and across America.
President Barack Obama poked fun at Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump, known for his prolific use of Twitter to settle scores, making Trump the punchline for jokes on ABC's late-night show Jimmy Kimmel Live. Obama not only read aloud a series of mean tweets culminating in one from Trump, but he also gave a little interview.
President Obama will go down as perhaps the worst president in the history of the United States! Exclamation point at real Donald Trump. Well, at real Donald Trump, at least I will go down as a president. So we thought of the little skit, and we decided we were going to putt on the carpet in the Oval Office, and somebody grabbed a glass, and so we were trying to putt in the glass, and he won repeatedly. I mean, he kept on. The glass was rigged. And look, there have been maybe 3 or 4 instances where you do get a call in the middle of the night. So, for example, when the typhoon hit Japan, Fukushima.
Right.
Right, and you're not sure what exactly is going to be happening. It's the other side of the world, so it's the middle of the night, and we had to deploy our experts and our military to make sure that any potential nuclear disaster was contained, and we helped the Japanese. So things like that will happen every once in a while, but for the most part,
they let you sleep.
for the most part, they let me sleep. But as I've mentioned before, what I don't do is like at 3 a.m., I don't tweet about
You don't tweet it at all?
people who've insulted me.
When you watch the debate and you watch
Yeah.
Donald Trump, do you ever laugh? Do you ever actually laugh?
Most of the time.
And you're staying in Washington, D.C., which is unusual for an exiting president.
I'm like the old guy at the bar, where you went to high school.
Yeah, exactly.
He just kind of hanging around. It's like shirt's buttoned a little too low. Still thinks he's cool.
That's one of your friends that you're going to be hanging
that's
out
exactly
with.
right.
Yeah.
Me and that guy will be at the Capitol Hill bar.
Revving your Corvettes.
When's that guy leaving? If I were able to run for a third term, Michelle would divorce me. So.
This marks the end of our bulletin for today. Now for a reminder of our headlines. Parliament Speaker Nabi Berri says the election of a new Lebanese president is necessary but will not be sufficient to solve the country's problems. Moscow says Russian and Syrian planes have not conducted any airstrikes on Aleppo for the last 7 days. And Iraqi security forces regained full control of a western town that was attacked by Daesh militants 2 days ago. Those are your Tuesday headlines live on Future Television. Stay tuned every day at the same time for all the latest. Have a good one.